Mr. Mayor, at 7 o'clock.
All right. I will call the June 19th meeting to order, and I will recognize Councilman Waits to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I don't usually read one, but I'm going to read one tonight that I got from a friend of mine that's a priest, or was a priest till he retired at St. Joseph's Catholic Church. Always pray to have eyes that see the best, a heart that forgives the worst, a mind that forgets the bad, and a soul that never loses faith. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Next is the reading of the minutes for June the 5th. Is there a motion for approval of the minutes as written?
I make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? There was one thing I wanted to, on page 2, item E, in the second paragraph, it says, Mr. Pouliot made a motion to delete the last sentence, and then it has the last sentence. That actually is not the last sentence. The last sentence was the one that had to do with taking the iPad or the recording devices into the, I don't know, we have the old one that we amended. I've got it here. I just need to find it. What was that? 1813. Yeah, the last sentence actually said, any exception, is that exception or exemption? Any exemption to this rule must be by 2/3 majority vote in public before entering the executive session. That was the sentence we took out of there. Is that?
That's correct.
I wonder if that was, I mean, very well could be, but I wonder, I could have gotten that from the current code.
Yeah, I think once we took that sentence out, then the last sentence, the next one became the last one, but that was actually the one that was the last one when we voted.
Okay.
So that just needs to be amended to say, delete the last sentence. Any exemption to this rule must be, I got a line through this thing, so I can't read it that good, must be by 2/3 majority vote in public before entering into the executive session. So that was actually the last sentence. Any other amendments or anything? All in favor then of those minutes being approved as amended, do so.
Wait a minute, what are you amending it to now? To say that what?
That wasn't the last sentence. The last sentence that we took out was the sentence I just read a while ago. You'd have to go back to 1813 on the previous thing. If you got the old 1813 that we did at second, or they'd been third reading.
Okay.
I mean, we took out one sentence with the exception of whatever all that said.
I mean, the ordinance passed, right?
Huh? Yeah. But this minute says we took out the other sentence, which we didn't take out that sentence. We took out the one after that. So I just want to clarify these minutes.
So what does the current ordinance say right now? I mean, do you have the current ordinance on posted? You have the current ordinance is posted now?
The current, yes.
It is? Okay.
Oh, wait, no, because, no, not yet, it hasn't been, it has not been.
All right, why don't we just delay this until you fix it and redo it?
Well, I'll make a motion to amend it as I've stated. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
You don't want to let her get a chance to fix it?
We just fixed it just by talking about it.
But I don't, okay.
I mean,
And I can review the video.
That's fine. I'd like to give you the opportunity to do that.
There's
but
the 1813
if you don't want
that
to
we
do it,
voted on, and there's the sentence that we took out. And that should be in your notes as well.
no, but it's not. It's not in the minutes. So I'm just asking you to give an opportunity to fix it. And we vote on it next meeting, which is not out of priority or not a.
No, but it's not a major change either, when this is in your previous stuff, and it's on your iPad too.
It's not a
Go back
major
to the
change.
last
Why did you
meeting.
bring it up?
Anyway, there's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor? You want to or not? All in favor, do so, show of hands.
Okay.
All opposed? And back to the minutes. Any more discussion? All in favor then of the minutes being amended as, being approved as amended, do so a show of hands. All opposed? Next is the administrative briefing. Mr. Brown, anything you'd like to add on the briefing?
No, sir.
Any questions of Mr. Brown on the briefing? Seeing none. Next is the code enforcement update.
Good evening. To add very quickly, August the 7th is National Night Out. The Irmo Police Department, along with the town, would like to invite the community out to the Irmo Community Park from 6 to 9 again. This will be the third time we've had it at the park. I think y'all remember last year. This year will be a rib eating contest between the Irmo Police Department and the Irmo Fire Department.
Rib eating
And-
contest?
Sir?
You said rib eating contest?
Rib eating contest.
Are you entering, sir?
I don't know if I can do all that.
You
The,
got to do it for the town.
Texas Roadhouse is donating the ribs.
What?
So we're going to have a good time with that. We're also going to try to get a Dunkin' booth, and if anybody would want to volunteer up there on the council, I'm sure we could find somebody that would dunk some people.
Well, we have a council meeting that night, so
so-
we aren't going to get
Sure, and that's what I was bringing it up. Maybe we could have a quick council meeting that night if we could maybe think about that, and so we can get over there between 6 and 9. Yes, ma'am.
August the what, 7th?
August the 7th is first Tuesday of every August. We have our National Night Out event. We invite the community to come out, meet the police department, fire department, local business owners. We've had a lot of donations this year. It's just getting bigger and bigger every year. So with that being said, I'd like to maybe just put on the back burner that maybe August 7th we could have a very
And it's from
quick
6 to 9?
council meeting. It's a Tuesday night, yes, sir.
But 6 to 9?
6 to 9 at the community park, yep. All right, code enforcement report. This is for May. As you see there, well, unsightly violations, we had 85. Conditions for collections, 4. Vehicle violations, 11. Business checks, 8. Signs removed, 38. We had animal complaints, 2. Zoning violations, 1. And miscellaneous complaints were 12. Illicit discharge, 1. The newest sewage ordinance, 1807, 3 was done by the director, Whitkline. 2 rental standards. We wrote 1 ticket for the illicit discharge and 1 for unsightly conditions and collections. So far, for the front yard parking under 1726, the education phase, we have identified 521 potential violations with this ordinance. Of those, 74 still need to be contacted or have failed to respond to our request. 447 have had face-to-face or a phone contact with an officer, or 3 or more failed attempts for personal contact.
Okay, one question.
Yes, sir.
The last question I had last meeting, how many of those 521 folks have actually complied? Do we know that?
I don't know about compliance. I do not know.
Well, let me ask you another way. Out of the 521 people that we contacted, that 74 still needed to be recontacted, 447 that have had face-to-face talks with, have you seen any changes in their parking habits?
I have, just riding around in the community, I've seen people attempting or have made changes to their homes to come within the ordinance guidelines.
So on August 1st, is that the date?
Yes, sir.
I should see 74 abatement notices written.
That could very well happen.
Okay.
And as far as that, you want to find out how many you think have complied with out of the 521? I'm not really, I'm not
No,
sure.
that's fine.
I can ask code enforcement to have a rough idea and let you know.
But I'm saying, right as of right now, I should see 74 abatement notices written on August 1st.
And probably a little more than that.
Right.
Could be. It could be.
At $1,087 if they don't comply.
Could be.
Okay.
Yeah, or it could be a $25 fine as well, if that's what the judge finds.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. And let's see, amendments to the agenda. I do want to make an amendment to the agenda to add 12B, discussions on water meters. I do want us to kind of talk about that a little bit so we can give Bob some direction. Maybe we need to have a policy down the road, but at least give him some direction as to, if we do a policy, what does it need to say? So just talk about it a little bit, kind of, is there a dollar amount that we need to do, or, you know, or something, but
Water meters?
about the water meters for beautifications.
Oh,
So that would be 12B under discussions.
okay.
Can't you put that on the agenda next time?
Is there, so I've made a motion, is there a second?
I'm sorry.
We,
Are we trying to add something right now?
Yeah, add an item to discussions under 12B.
Water meters.
Just a quick discussion on water meters for the beautification, so we can kind of,
Can we add something now?
yeah,
no,
yeah.
no, you
We
can't.
can add something. There is a question on the table. Yes, we can add something. It says right here, will the item require a vote of council to be taken at a meeting? No. Then you follow the body's adopted rules of procedures for adding in. So when we're amending it to add something, but it doesn't require a vote or cash or anything like
Yeah,
that,
but it's not an item that has.
one question at a time, then yes, we can do that.
Okay.
If we were voting on it, and if it required money, then we have to go through that other
Understood.
question and answer do trick.
Are we talking about City of Columbia? Okay.
Yeah, when we put water meters in for the beautification.
Okay.
Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, but I think we need to kind of have a better discussion on that. And we got that beautification project come up, so I think we kind of need to talk about it to give Bob some ideas on that.
All right.
So, let's see, there was a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Oh. Any discussion?
You can't add an item to the agenda without giving us proper notification. This is not something that needed to be handled on an emergency situation. You can put it on the next agenda like we normally do, so everybody has an opportunity to research it and figure out what we're gonna talk about. By blindsiding us with this at the last minute, it's totally out of character, totally unnecessary, and I don't know why you wanna change the rules at this point to do that. This is something that's not necessary and not needed, and it doesn't follow your protocol of following the little flow chart of adding amendments to the agenda. So,
Any more
I mean-
discussion? You second.
No, I think, we're not voting to
Right.
pay any money, we're just discussing it.
And there's a,
yeah, but we've done that before. We've had the same situation before, and you said we
Not
can't
if-
add it.
Not if we add it and there's a price involved.
Okay,
there's a clear rule of procedures right there from the municipal association, from the Supreme Court. that
I
says how to
follow
do
it then.
I did. I just
You
followed.
did
it.
not.
Yeah, I did.
What does it say if we wanna add something to the agenda?
It says, will the item require a vote of council to be taken at the meeting?
And the answer is what?
No.
All
because
right,
we're
and
not
what's the
voting.
next step?
Follow the public bodies, adopt the rules of procedure for adding an item to the agenda.
Right, and we said that we don't add stuff to the agenda unless it's an emergency, financial, fiscal
You want to find it in there
responsibility.
and show it to us?
You know what it is.
I know. I done read it.
Okay, so why are you trying to amend the agenda
doesn't
for
say what
something
you
that's
said
not
it does.
necessary?
Enough
I
debate.
mean,
You want to prove something real quick? Find it on.
not
Oh, wait,
improving,
okay.
it's something we don't need to be doing. This is not an item that requires an emergency fiscal action to be done. It's
And
not
there's
like we
no
have
action
that.
been done. There's no vote being done. There's just discussion.
So then put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
I don't want to. I want
Like
to
you
talk about
did.
it now. So I've done it this way. That's the way it says. We can do it.
Okay,
So there's a motion and a second.
Totally
Any more discussion? All in favor then of having the discussion, which again is just a discussion, do so a show of hands. If we don't get enough votes, we won't. No.
Are you surprised?
No. So all opposed?
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't like water meters.
I don't either. That's why I think we need to talk about them and make a decision to
Okay, got it.
either do it or not do it. But
So you're gonna take a vote on it?
and the next, any more amendments to the agenda? Seeing none. Next item is consideration of communications. Any consideration of communications?
I have one that I asked if this was proper, and it was, according to our authorities. Getting my hair cut yesterday, one of our constituents that has a business in the town of Irmo and is concerned with Irmo. He's a realtor. And he presented me with a copy of the newspaper that's printed in 5 points, the Columbia Star Reporter. It's an article which each one of you has in your packet there called Top 10 Residential Code Violations Concerns in the City of Columbia, just to show that we're not the only place. First item is overgrown lots. They're concerned with vegetation, trees, et cetera, Roll carts. People aren't picking their roll carts up after they've been emptied, and they're not picking them up after 7:30 at night, so the next day they're still out in the yard or in the street, because sometimes our garbage service takes them out of your yard and leaves them on the street. Outdoor placement of certain items of property outside a dwelling or other enclosed structure for more than 48 hours visible from the street or sidewalks adjacent to the property. And they include such things as household appliances, upholstered furniture manufactured for indoor use only, machine parts, motor vehicle parts, pallets, paper, plumbing fixtures, rags, scrap metal, bottles, appliances, so forth. Number 4 is peeling paint. Now, these are all homes in Columbia, not rental homes, not residential, all of them. All exterior surfaces other than decay-resistant wood shall be protected from the elements and decay by painting and applying protective coverings or treatments. Peeling and flaking chipped paint shall be eliminated and surfaces repainted. Abandoned cars. License plate expired on homeowner property and abandoned on street. No inoperative or unlicensed motor vehicle shall be parked, kept, or stored on any premises, and no vehicle shall at any time be in a state of disrepair, assembly, or disrepair. Front yard parking. Oh my. No person shall park a vehicle of any description within the front yard of any property used for residential purposes except upon an improved surface. Number 7, house in extreme disrepair. Exterior and interior structure shall be maintained in good repair, structurally sound, sanitary, so as not to pose a threat to the public health, safety, or welfare. Number 8, number of unrelated people living in a dwelling. No more than 3 unrelated adults shall occupy a single dwelling unit. Number 9 concerns rentals. Every rental residence within the city must have a residential rental permit prior to allowing occupancy as a rental unit. And the last one concerns right-of-ways, meaning on your property. You're to cut your grass, you're to trim the shrubbery from property line to property line, street. Seems that we're following City of Columbia and their problems as well. And if our esteemed newspaperman would like a copy of it, I have you one.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
It says, ask us at the Star, and there's obviously a picture of a lady. And then it says compiled by Warren Hughes. Really?
Warren Hughes is with the City of Columbia.
Okay, who's the lady?
She is the reporter that got this from him.
What's her name?
That I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
I do know Warner Montgomery, so I can ask Warner.
I was just sitting here thinking her name was Warren Hughes. That's
It says here, and I don't know, submit your questions to, does that say Emmy?
Mimi M, I believe.
Mimi M?
I don't know anybody named Mimi M.
Yeah, I don't know if that's her.
But I thought this was quite interesting. for us.
Any more considerations of communications? And I think Bob had laid one on their desk too up here.
That's the one.
Oh, well, this one of the iPhone thing.
Oh, no, that's not. That's
Oh,
not.
okay. There's another one he said up here about iPhones. Apple is trying to do something to their, I guess, next generation phone to have the 911 stuff fixed where it'll go.
I have one piece of communication that may be of interest to maybe everybody. Mr. Glassmeyer's on vacation
In Poland.
in Poland. Yes, he's gone for 2 weeks. Now, the interesting thing to me about this, every year he goes to a different site of a World War II battle, and which I think is very interesting. And he will hit all the concentration camps ultimately. This is his third trip, and Auschwitz is this time, and Normandy, and it was very interesting. But he'll be gone over 2 weeks, so y'all need to ask questions because he's gone. I just thought everybody would want to know that.
He's probably watching this tonight. Yeah, he's
He
probably
could be
watching
watching
it now.
it.
He's going to be
It is fine.
texting you in a minute.
I think his vacations are very interesting. I wish I could do that. I'd love to do that. Not with him, but I would love to do that.
All right, any other consideration of communications? Seeing none. Next is presentation by citizens. This is where any citizen who would like to address council on anything that's on the agenda may do so at this time. All we ask is you give us your name and address for the record, and then what item you'd like to address or speak to. Seeing none. Oh, all right.
My name is Lindley Hummel, 112 London Pride Road. My issue is with new business. I disagree with A, B, and C. There is not a need for increase. There is a need for decrease in spending. You're wasting our time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none. Next item is ordinance 1804. This is the one we deferred or whatever. We would need to get a motion in a second on the one that we seconded last time, and then if we want to make any changes to the other one, then we can amend it. But is there a motion for third and final reading?
I so move.
And a second.
I'll second it.
And I will recognize Councilman Waite and then Councilman Pouliot after that.
Well, at the last, previous meeting, when this was discussed, there was a lot of disagreement, and I said I would volunteer to fix it or make up some ways to fix it, and I presented everybody with that on Monday of this past week.
Let me know if
And I believe Mr. Brown put it in everybody's box if I didn't hand deliver it to you. And do we need to go through that one at a time now, or?
Well,
You hand delivered to me, so
I didn't know where you were.
I was at my house.
Well, I heard you were working, and I didn't know what.
I was at my house.
Oh, well.
all right, well,
Down the street,
Councilman
I
Waite
caught
has
Kathy
the,
at a restaurant, so.
Councilman Waite has the floor, and then
think
Mark
he-
Pouliot has
I think
it, so,
he ought to read it to us.
well,
I
him.
think you ought to read it too.
It's in his box, and Bob put it in the box the day that I gave it to him.
So,
No, I seconded this because of the work that Councilman Waits had done. He's done some excellent work here. Thank you.
any more discussion?
Can the public see? Yeah, I guess so. Okay.
Yeah.
What you got a handout he gave you?
Uh-huh.
Well, I didn't get one, so can you hand me one?
You got it on the thing here.
I don't,
Give him that.
like you said, you hand delivered it to everybody but me, so I'd like to see one if it's all right.
Did you
Thank
put
you.
one in everybody's package, Bob?
they're on the iPad. We did.
Oh, yeah,
You
so-
and Mark are the only two to get paper.
But they're on the iPad, the new one that Julius did. Is that correct? Okay.
Correct.
One thing I would suggest, Julius, if you want to amend it, my suggestion would be to go down
One at a
one item at a time so we can kind of not get lost. Because I did get lost.
This is the third and final reading.
And I want to find, I'm missing a page.
Well, since the public can see what's on the
Yeah,
screen,
go ahead.
may I
There
go
it is.
ahead and say what I've
Yeah,
changed?
yeah.
Okay. Under section 1011, the licensing fee, I said delete and replace it with the annual license fee shall be. No, this is not correct. That's what was,
Yeah, the old one said 200.
and no, yeah, and this isn't correct, Bob.
Well, that's the
said-
1804.
as I
What we need is the 1804 proposed.
Okay,
Is that one on the computer?
They're both on the iPad.
okay.
So can we click?
They're on the iPad, but not in the PowerPoint.
Oh, okay.
They're not on the computer because it wasn't up for third reading. It was not proposed yet or
Oh,
amended.
okay, I see.
All right, well, I changed it to read the annual license fee shall be $100 for the first dwelling, $50 for each additional dwelling if the license is applied for and granted before renting or leasing the dwelling. If the person rents the house before they get a permit, or if they apply after April 15th, then they will pay $100. I don't think we need to go up from $50 per dwelling to $100 per dwelling, and I checked with all the municipalities around us, and we are the highest.
If we go to 200, you mean, or
No, right now, where we are,
at 50?
at $50, City of Columbia charges $25.
Okay.
City of Lexington charges $0, but you have to have a permit. Their kick is if you have 5 or more homes for rent, you must get a regular full-fledged business license, and you pay a percentage of your yearly take on your houses as your fee.
Oh.
And I included that in my change as well.
Do you want to, there's an 11.1 under your thing and an 11.9. Do you want to go to those before you go to the 11.10, or?
Well, I don't have it on my iPad either, and I didn't bring my copy thinking it would be on the iPad.
You want this one?
Is that the one that I?
That's the
changed?
proposed one that you did.
Okay,
And
Is this what you gave everybody?
yeah.
That's what you gave everybody. So you can read this, right?
Well, this should be the same thing, I hope.
yeah, I wanted to look and make sure.
So this is another one of your examples of passing notes amongst yourselves and not including
No,
me?
Mr. Walker, I understand you're employed at the State Department of
No, I
Corrections.
mean, I'm
and
not-
I
that has
took it
nothing to do
people
with-
that I knew.
All right.
I put-
It has nothing to do with where we
I
live
took
at.
it. If you
I live
if
right
you let
down
me
the
finish
street.
instead of interrupting me like you
Yeah.
did.
You know where the street
Mayor,
is.
please,
Councilman
thank you.
Walker,
But I mean,
Waits
you know
has
where I
the
live
floor,
at.
and we're going to
Why
keep
wouldn't you
it to
not
this.
pass it to me?
Just don't answer that and let's get back to
As
it.
I was saying, I found out where Ms. Condon was by calling her cell phone. We've been friends for many years before this, and I took it to the restaurant where she and her husband were having dinner.
Okay.
Mr. Pouliot is a friend, and we go to car shows together, so I know where he lives, and I took it to his house. I went by the mayor's business. I went by and had Bob make copies of it, and he said he would put them in everybody's box as well.
And it didn't happen, and I live at 902 Shadowleaf Court, and I have 2 cats that live
You do not have the floor right now, so
So
we're
my
going to.
point is this, why didn't I get a copy of this?
It's in
Don't
your
ask-
box, Mr.
hey.
Walker, as far as I know.
Councilman Waits.
If
I'm
I
gonna
what?
add- Listen here, we're not going to argue back and forth about this. We have one person that has the floor, one at a time. That's the way it works.
That's
You know
fine, but
that.
he didn't do it. He
If
didn't
it's
have it.
fine, then let him finish his conversation.
I want to know why I didn't get a copy of this. I'm reading it now for the first time.
That's, you can take that up with Bob. If he didn't put it in your basket or didn't put it on this thing, that's our fault.
He didn't put it in the iPad, and he didn't put it in the packet.
Okay, he admitted that. Now,
I'm supposed to have a copy of it.
It's on the iPad.
Okay.
so it is on the iPad, okay.
It is on the iPad on your pages.
So let's go back to 11.
Proposed rental.
Yeah.
Here we go. All right.
So we got the 11.1 and the 11.9.
Yeah, 11.1, definitions. I'm adding the sentence at the end of the paragraph, total occupancy will not exceed 10 people. I know we got some grumbling about that, but that we followed HUD's advice. Exceptions can be granted by the town administrator, must be submitted in writing.
Wait a minute, where's that at?
It's,
Hold on.
Where's
it's
that at?
right here.
We're going to direct all the questions, not back and forth to each other. We're
I'm
going to
trying to
stick to
follow
this.
what he's saying, sir. Where is it at on here? On where
You got a
everybody
piece of
can
paper
see.
in your hand.
It's on pages.
Okay, show me where it is on here. This is in my hand. Show me where that. You just read it. Where is it at?
Right there, 11.1.
Well, you just read about 10 occupancy per
Right
person.
there.
11.1.
No, the occupancy. That's a rental fee.
Right there, 11.1.
That's all we're talking about right now is 11.1.
Then.
Mr. Waite.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
So we don't have to discuss it. We checked with HUD, Fair Housing, and everybody else, and we know this is the right figure.
Right.
Go right ahead, thank you.
So that's what, the only difference is, I said exceptions can be granted by the town administrator if there's a family that has many, and there are people who have lots of children.
There are.
I had as many as I could afford. But
Would you want to make a motion to add that?
I would like to make a motion that we add this definition to section 11.1. Yes, sir.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, what are you talking about? Add what?
Mr. Walker.
Wait a minute. Wait, whoa.
You said any
We're gonna go
discussion,
back,
I'm asking him a question. Where
Julius
is it
Wade
at on here?
made the motion. Kathy seconded it. She'll go next. So Julius, go ahead. Kathy next, and then Councilman Walker can wait until his turn, and he can speak then. So
I did this hoping that it wouldn't cause so many problems, but if somebody wants to grandstand at every meeting.
If you would
lately,
come by and
so
brought me
all
a
right,
copy, you would have found it.
let's keep to this 11.1.
And I followed procedures to put it in the boxes. It was put in the boxes if I didn't take it to people. And I'm not going to somebody's home late at night and bother them. I didn't do that when I campaigned.
And you don't have to
Anyway,
make excuses
we
for that,
meet
but
the HUD regulation of 10 people, but we do know there are people that may have larger families and they may purchase homes with 4 or 5
where's this
bedrooms.
thing get on here?
2 people per bedroom, that's 10 people total right there. And if 2 kids are sharing a bedroom, as children often do,
Under
it could be more than 10 people. Well, that would be a
pages.
special exception, and I put in here that it must be submitted in writing, and town administrator could grant an exception if that were done.
what page is that?
We had, I had someone mention to me that this was against fair housing, that it was fine according to HUD, but it was against fair housing of 68. And I read the whole darn thing, and I'm gonna tell you, it took a while. But HUD came after fair housing
So that
and
supersedes.
said this, and that's what it says. So we're
Find
okay.
this on mine?
Because you broke it.
No, I'm trying to figure out how to get off what's new.
Oh, no, it won't go up.
How do you get off that 2 pages?
Hit the bottom button and just start it over again. Go out and come back in.
It won't go away.
Anyway, the only thing I wanted to say, maybe I can look at Kathy's real quick, is the only problem I have with that one is the exception thing. What did that say about the town administrator?
That if you have more than 10 people, like if you have 8 children, 10 children, Bob can give you an exemption, but you have to put it in writing and ask him, and I'm sure Bob will be delighted somebody has 10 children.
But the only problem, I don't know how to get to there it is. I hate to put that monkey on Bob's back to make exceptions when council may or may not be happy with those. And it doesn't really have a, you know how to get that off?
You flip it up.
It doesn't do anything.
Well, it's mad at you. I don't know.
Anyway, is there any way to clarify that under these circumstances or under these guidelines or yada, 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 or
Clarify what, sir?
the
The 10 people?
10 people? I just don't think that's good for us to pass the buck to somebody and then make them do the exceptions. I would say take that out altogether and say 10 is 10. But again, that's just,
Well, the original has 10 in it.
right, but it doesn't have an exception.
It doesn't have an exception, and that seemed to have been the talking point last time.
And the only
And a
reason,
disagreement,
I think.
if somebody had more than,
Yeah, one of
say,
my
7, they had 9 children, and that's a possibility. And then it's 2 adults, that's 11 people. Oh, too
I
many
have
people.
a neighbor that has 8 and a mother-in-law living, so it happened.
Well, the one from Columbia, what, said 3?
It said you can have more than 3 unrelated people in a
Oh,
house
okay.
by blood.
That's because of USC.
That's because of USC and
Yeah.
the people renting houses to one person, and they
Right.
have 10 roommates.
So we're going to debate this on the fly and try to figure out this ordinance in third reading.
That was y'all's choice at the last meeting to defer it until this,
I
so
was going
that's
to
what
have
it did.
help from anybody, and I received no input from anyone, so I did it.
Yeah, you also pass it out to everybody but me.
Okay,
I would have thought that it would have been included in your correspondence. So we could have had, alleviate this debate at the meeting.
Well, we
Out of
have had stuff brought to the meetings before at the meeting, at the last time, with no council member being aware of stuff, and brought it up at it. So, I mean, that's par for the course.
And it's been on the iPad
par for the
since
course.
Friday.
So, any more discussion about the amendment to the ordinance that is 11-1?
Yeah, I want you to read the rest of the ordinance that you're proposing here. There's a
Well, we're
lot
only
more than
doing
just
one
that.
at a time.
Okay, that's number 20
It's on-
you're talking about.
No, we're talking about 11-1, which I circled on the top.
11.1 has subheadings under it. Is that not what it has?
No, that would be 11-9 and 11-10 and 11-12. So we're only doing them one at a time.
All right.
Any more discussion about 11-1? All in favor then of amending it to add 11-1 as whatever's on here, do so with show of hands. All opposed? All right. So what's the next one?
The next one is 11-9. Change both references of 30-day grace period to 15-day abatement periods. Got that idea from Judge Adams. She said if somebody is a repeat violator, they don't need another 30 days to still not meet the standards and meet the conditions. So that's why that was changed.
You making a motion?
So I would like to make a motion that we change the second 2 references in 11-9 from 30-day grace period to 15-day abatement periods.
I'll second that.
All righty, and I will
that's reasonable.
recognize Councilman Waits and then Pouliot, and then whoever else wants to speak after that.
Well, as I said, I got those from Judge Adams one afternoon when I was talking to her about this in reference to our sewage problem that she went straight for and
Right.
eliminated. And then one of her first cases that dealt with it, the person did not follow her recommendation and went to jail.
Yes.
She does not mess around. And she said, if you've already been abated, you don't keep doing it. People say that Irmo doesn't enforce the law.
No, I also
He
talked
does.
with Judge Adams, and I totally agree.
I think it's reasonable.
Let me ask one question, Eric. In the second paragraph, are you reading it, the old one? One ahead of you, but go ahead. It says, prior to issuing a citation for violation of this section, the person to be charged must be first given notice of the violation and a 30-day grace period in which to cure.
All right, that's left as it is.
So we're going to
Leave that.
leave that.
the next two say are changed.
Okay, so the next one, the very last where it says the 30-day grace period shall begin on the date of the mailing or personal delivery.
So what's the question?
So-
Are you trying to change both of those to 15?
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Where it says here we got to give a notice of violation and then a 30-day grace. So the notice of violation, is that the abatement notice?
That's correct.
So the abatement notice is how long right now?
30 days.
Well, it says a notice of violation and a 30-day grace. So,
Same thing.
oh, okay, okay.
You get it at the same time. So the officer
Oh,
would
okay.
show up and issue the abatement notice, and you would have 30 days. I mean, I don't think that we're mailing any of these. We may be, so I don't want to speak for law enforcement, but I doubt that we're mailing very many of these things. I would think that most of these would be delivered to the offender, and they would then have 30 days to deliver.
So it would say, my thing went off.
So I would assume they're trying to change the 30 day to 15 day in the two spots where it occurs.
Okay. So it would say first be given a notice of violation and a 15-day
Abatement period.
abatement.
Taking out the grace period in 30 days, just replacing it with 15-day abatement, like everything else in our ordinance.
Okay. Okay.
That would be uniform, right? Okay.
What are you reading there? What is that paper?
That's
you're reading right
the one that's on the books before we ever started changing it.
there? Is that what's displayed right here?
I don't know. I'm looking at this one because it's easy for me to look at this one and see what it said, and then what we amended it to first and second reading, and then what we're doing now, so I can follow.
So what the people are seeing right there has no bearing on what you just read.
We haven't gotten to it yet. First thing on here is 11:10, and we're on 11:09.
But basically what we're doing is changing the 30-day abatement period to a 15-day abatement period. So, and I think, Mark, you were,
Yeah, as I said, I agree with it.
any more discussion?
This is totally confusing to me, and I'm sure to most of the people sitting out here. Can you please show us what the current code is? Can you display that so we can understand what you're changing? We have the technology to do that, don't we?
No, because this is an amendment from the code that's on the books. What the people are looking at on the screen is the third and final reading of Ordinance 1804, and this was not part of the change in 1804. Mr. Waits is introducing this as a change to what's on the books.
Okay,
separate.
so
It's an amendment.
take that off the screen then. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about right now.
Well, the rest of it will, just these first two items don't. The rest of the items on there will be
The next
referencing
item is
1804.
So then by changing total occupancy to 10 people, don't you think that's important enough for people to understand what that means, the impact of that?
Are you asking us? You asking the audience?
I'm
You
asking
yourself?
Bob, since
Oh.
you left the floor open for me to ask him questions, yeah.
So he's supposed to speak on behalf of the people?
You're not, so I guess he is. I mean,
Any more discussion on 11-9 to 30 days to 15 days? All in favor then of the amendment to change 30 days in section 11-9 to 15 days, do so with show of hands. All opposed? Next is
11:10.
Oh, you got my thing, that's right. Okay, let me look at this one. Yeah, 11:10. So do you want to make a motion on that one?
I want to make a motion that we amend 11:10 to read that,
This one.
or add the paragraph, that the licensing fee will be $50 per dwelling, And unless the renewal license is applied for after April 15th, or if the property is rented prior to obtaining the rental license, if this occurs, the total fee includes a penalty, and it will be $100. And at the end, under 1110, I want to add to paragraph B, which is not shown on here for some reason, that a person who lived in the house and then put it up for rent was given a statement that they would not have to pay a fee. But it didn't say, is that forever or is that for this year? So I changed that to say that it's for 1 year. So the first year you rent your house after you decide to move out of it and rent it, you don't pay a rental fee to rent your house. But the second year you will, because the ordinance didn't say how long that grace went. So some people were coming in. I talked with Vi, and Vi said that people were coming in 4 and 5 years down the road saying, do I still get to do it for free? It's not in there. And she said, well, that's just the way it was written. Well, now it should be clear. And then section C, if the property owner has more than 5 rental units, then he or she is required to obtain a business license from the town. And that would include checking the total rental they've received on those however many houses they have, and the rental license is a percentage of that total amount of money.
So that's not a business license?
Business license.
That's not a business license, the $50 fee?
It's a rental permit, actually.
So it's not a business license?
It really isn't a business license. It's more or less a permit, because a license is based on your annual amount of income.
But it says annual license here.
I didn't write the original ordinance.
You wrote this one.
I just put a change in it, Mr. Walker, and I didn't get everything because I'm not perfect. I did the best I could to get it done so that we could discuss it. That makes sense. If you
Share it
want to
amongst
change
your
that, then
share it among your
you're free to do it.
Excuse me?
Share it amongst your friends, right?
Mr. Walker, it was put in your box last
No,
week.
it wasn't.
It was put on the iPad Friday at 5 o'clock or 5:30 whenever Renee puts this on our iPad.
Where? It's not on there now.
Yes, it is.
Where?
Go to your pages.
I'm on it.
All right.
I'm looking at it. I found it.
1807.
No, you will see 2 things on pages. Hold on just a second.
Yeah, one says proposed.
One says proposed, and one
Mine won't
says
come
that.
up. Hold on a second. All right. Under documents, it says ordinance 1804, parentheses, rental dash proposed, all caps, end of parentheses.
Okay.
You see that?
Yeah.
That's what I've been reading.
No, you haven't.
Is this the same thing that's on your screen right now?
I'm looking at the paper here that you just passed me, and this is not the same. I mean, come on now.
11.1. Read it right there. Total occupancy, not to exceed 10 people, exceptions made by the town administrator. Right there.
And who seconded this one?
Must be in writing. Where's that at?
Did you?
Where's that at?
I didn't put it on there. The administrator said he would.
Must be in writing. It says right there, must be in writing. Is that the same as this?
Mr. Brown put it on there because he said that would.
The problem is, you didn't give me this paper. Okay, I didn't get this from you.
God
delivered it.
forgive me for not giving you a paper.
Well, hallelujah. Thank you, got some sense.
Amen.
We need to get a second. I don't think we had a second. Did we get a second on this?
I'm glad I'm not running for mayor.
On 1110? Pull it, okay.
Well,
I thought we did. I just want to make sure I had wrote.
In fact, I'm not. Period.
Do you want to comment?
No.
Had enough.
Anybody else want to comment?
Yeah, yes, just to, I think we're on the same page. It's a rental fee if you have 1 or 2 houses.
1 to 5.
If you have
1 to
more
4.
than
Excuse
5,
me.
okay, 1 to 4. If you have 5 or more, it's a business license.
That's
Well-
according to.
I understand. If 5 rental houses is a business,
But you still get the rental fee per home plus the business license. Is that?
No, the business license is 5 homes or more, and that's based on your
Okay.
total
Yeah.
take per
Okay.
year on your total number of houses. which is what a regular business pays on like a Honda dealer that's coming to town. Their business license will be based on their probably proposed income per year.
So you can't call it a license, then you have to call it a rental fee.
Then make an amendment, Mr. Walker, and we'll change it. It's been that way since this has been in effect, and I believe it was 1985.
No, this one we passed.
This says rental.
Actually, you ought to know when we passed it.
That's all right.
You supported it and all that back in 12 or something, or 10. Anyway, there is one question I have. I'm not sure, but the paragraph B, waived after or for only 1 year. The reason we did that years ago, if I remember correctly, was that if someone owned a home and let's just say they moved and bought another home, or they moved out of town, moved for a job, and couldn't sell the house because of that economy we're in at that time, and they decided to keep the house not as a investment but as because they couldn't sell it or whatever, that we weren't going to charge them a business license since they really weren't a business. And I think that's why we did it open-ended, so that it would be forever, so to speak, with the intention that at some time if the economy got better and they wanted to sell their house, fine. If they wanted to keep it, fine too.
I think that's right.
Yeah, I think it was something to that, because that was a bad economy, and we felt like that if there were a lot of people that were moving, some were moving up into other neighborhoods and areas, but some were moving out of town because of a job or something, or and couldn't sell the house, so they were having to keep it and rent it until another time when they could. Whatever the majority wants to do on that is fine. In a way, I felt like if we take that out, all those people we, I don't say kind of led to believe it was forever, were whatever. But I know nothing's forever, and that was the council at that time, and this is the council at this time. So we can always do what we want to do. But that was the only issue, I think, why we did it that way.
So, if I may, what you're saying, Mayor, is if someone couldn't sell their house and they decided to rent it, you were going to allow them to rent it without...
For 1 year.
For 1 year.
No, back then it was forever, because we didn't put a term limit on it.
But this is for 1 year.
Yeah,
This is
now
for
we'd
1
be changing
year.
it. That, you know.
And if someone doesn't come to the town after a year of renting, is there a penalty?
I think from what he is
Instead of $50,
amending it,
100.
it would be
It's
$100
$100.
instead of $50. Which, what it
It's
originally
worth, it's
was
worth
50.
rolling the dice at $100.
And that was why I put the 200 in there, because I know multiple people that told me if they got caught, it was 50. If they got not caught, it was 50. If it didn't matter, it was 50. So why pay the thing and take our chance?
Most people are getting $800, $1,000, $1,200 for their monthly rental. For them, $50, $100, it's not going to make a difference. They're not going to come to the town. There's no reason.
Well, in my opinion, that's why we did the 200 is if it's stiff enough, they'll come up front and do it for 50. If it's not, they just, like I say, roll the dice and get caught, not get caught, and they'll worry about it then. But whatever council wants to do is whatever they want to do. I can vote for it, or, somebody wants to amend it to a higher
This
amount.
was most like the places you called. Because he called every municipality to get the, which I thought.
We're the highest right now,
Okay.
period. Columbia's next at $25 a house. Lexington charges nothing unless you have 5 or more. KC West Columbia, same thing.
Okay.
So any more discussion? Damn, this thing keeps going off. I gotta
On
change.
1110.
Yes.
So we're adding to paragraph A, the wording, we're adding to paragraph B, the wording, and then we're adding a new paragraph altogether to C, 5 rental units or more,
Okay.
which is on here under the proposed.
Under 1110, the property owner has more than 5 rental units. It says he's required to get a business license. Does that mean 5 rental units in Irmo, or does that mean 5 rental units across the country?
Oh, in Irmo.
It's the Irmo rental zone, rental agreement, so it has to.
So if he has 1 rental house in Irmo and 20 outside of Irmo, he is not required to get a business license.
He would only have one here in Irma, that'd be all we know about, he'd only have one.
So he's not required to get a business license.
Nope, fee is $50.
But he could be a rental company and just happens to have 1 piece of property. He has a business license everywhere else, but Irmo.
Well, if he's a rental company, then they would get a business license
Anyway,
based on
Under the business.
whatever they do normally anyway, if they're in town. Well, I guess if they're out of town too,
yeah.
or if they're just in town.
If they're an in-town business, we would collect the gross revenues for all of their, businesses. But if they're not an in-town business, then we're just gonna get them for how many rentals they have in town.
Okay. So any more discussion? All in favor of this amendment, which is the A, B, and C of 1110, do so with show of hands. Opposed? Next is, what is it, 1112?
1112. And this has 2, 4, this will take us to the end. Standards for rental units, parking spaces. We changed that originally, and I wanted to go back to what we have that's on the viewer in front of everybody. The parking surface material shall be concrete, asphalt, or contained gravel, and no more than 4 vehicles, which is a zoning ordinance, will be permitted in the front area of the residence. It just shortens that up.
Now, do you want to do each of these by themselves or do all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 together as one?
Well, if somebody has a problem with one,
Okay, so you want to do each one?
I better do it one at a time.
All right. So he's made a motion for 11, 12, 9 parking spaces. Is there a second?
Second.
And you can go ahead and then Kathy.
Well, I just decided to make it pretty clear what parking surfaces should be. And of course, bring in the zoning ordinance, no more than 4 vehicles in the front area of the home. Because I've seen a lot of houses with lots of cars all over the place. It's like a used car lot.
And let me ask, front area of home. I know we discussed that on the satellite. Is that everything in front of the house, or do we need to word that differently?
It's everything on the driveway.
The front area is the front area. That's what it says. It's everything beyond the front line of the house. I mean, you can see that on your ordinances. It draws a line right across the front of the house. And then it draws the line down the side up to where the back line is on the house. Those little tiny spots between the front and the back is the side.
This side yard.
And then
Okay.
there's the front, and then there's the back.
So this would mean anything in that front plane, no more than 4. No more than 4.
But it says the parking surface, and it defines that, and then says no more than, so they've got to be on that surface, right?
Right.
Right, okay. And 4 is the zoning, yes.
Any more discussion?
So, well, okay.
This conforms with the parking ordinance, and whether we agree with that or not.
And the zoning.
Whether it doesn't, it makes it, it's conforming. And then the zoning ordinance says 4 vehicles. So they're being uniform.
Any more discussion? All in favor then of this amendment, which is 11 to 9, do so with show of hands.
11, 12, 9.
Huh?
11, 12, 9.
Oh, yeah, 11, 12, 9, yeah. And the 4 vehicles, yeah. And all opposed. All right, and the next one is
Bless you.
11, 12, 10. So do you want to make a motion on that one, and then we'll get a second and just keep on going?
Okay. I'll make a motion that we accept the corrections or the changes to 1112-10 on grass height. Add this new sentence into the current paragraph.
A
And is
second.
there, okay. All right. Any more, do you want to talk, Kathy?
No, this conforms with the other.
The only issue I had, and I wanted to ask, let's see, where did my thing go? All lawns must be properly landscaped and maintained. What does that mean?
What? Huh?
That's the new sentence for 1110, or 111210. Is that right?
All lawns are present.
That's what's in the current one.
Mm-hmm.
All lawns must be properly landscaped.
Yes.
It says with sodded or seeded grass lawns and properly maintained.
Yeah.
I deleted some of that and just made it, I thought, pretty simple.
Well, I'm going to ask then again, without the sodded and seeded, what does that mean? All lawns,
Well, that means you have a lawn.
if you don't have a lawn because you got dirt, that's not a lawn, or is it?
No, lawn is grass.
Are we going to get stuck on that?
Sorry, I couldn't tell which one to do.
Either,
Yeah, I mean, you're not gonna be writing it under that portion of it, I wouldn't think. It borders on unconstitutionally vague in terms of writing a citation. If you don't have a lawn, then I guess I'm writing you a ticket for not maintaining the lawn. So I would say it may be added verbiage that is instructive more than it is regulatory.
so we can't enforce it.
That is short of it, yes. I mean, you can, I just don't know how well.
Right.
Well, what we have present on here couldn't be either.
The difference between the present amendment that y'all had read through the first 2 readings was saying that there would be grass. That would be
Right.
sodded.
Sodded or seeded lawns.
And so that part is clear and could be enforced, whereas lawns being maintained is not nearly as clear.
So, do we want to leave it vague and unenforceable, or do we want to amend it back and add the sod and seeded grass lawns?
Okay,
Well,
go ahead.
I'll just withdraw this amendment.
Not yet? Not yet? Because I have a front lawn, that's been resodded, reseeded 4 times.
We're going to come get you.
They come get me, that's fine. I will lay down on that piece of, and dare anybody to grow grass. No, there's greenery there.
But you're not a rental home either,
No, I'm not rental, but
so,
grass will not grow. Now, we're gonna plow it up one more time and sod it, and then that's it. I'm
well,
not,
put St. Augustine and don't put no more of that other
I'm
stuff.
gonna put St. Augustine. I put centipede the last
Yeah,
one.
that ain't going to grow in the shade.
St. Augustine.
I am,
Charleston
okay,
grass.
but I'm just saying there's a lot of land, because we're on red clay, and there's a lot of land around here where grass will not grow without the help of Whitcline. Maybe he can make it grow, but I've seen places like that, and I like this.
Well, this again is for the rental homes, not for the owner occupied.
I understand,
what
I
you'd
still
be-
like it.
Asking if you put that in there, the sodded and seeded, is that if you're gonna own a rental home, then you're gonna
It
fix the grass.
says lawn.
Huh?
It says lawn.
But there's no such thing as a lawn if you don't have grass. I mean, that's just, I don't know. Maybe there's a different name, maybe that's yard, I don't know.
That's yard. Lawn means you have grass.
Yeah,
Right.
so you can't maintain it if you don't have it. That's what I'm saying, I don't know if we can enforce that.
It'll be fine.
But
I think we might be going too far with all this seeding and sodding.
we can try it this way and then change it later if we need to. I mean,
Yes.
it's up to whatever majority wants. I just kind of feel like that's going to be or impossible for code enforcement to write it up.
Right.
The way it is, because, I don't know. We can change it and live with it for a while, and if it don't work, change it again.
Right, because if you do nothing, if you do nothing, it's going back to the 8-inch grass, right?
Well,
It's 8-inch now.
Right.
if we don't pass it the way he's amended it, it'll go back to the one we had on second and third reading,
Right.
which says, all lawns must be properly landscaped with sodded or seeded grass lawns and properly maintained. Dead grass must be replaced. That would be what it goes back to, if we don't.
And that is
Yes.
enforceable, right?
Yeah. But it's also, forcing some landlords, property manager, whatever, to fix their lawn. Depends on whether we want to do that or not.
It could be a spot. Rather than the whole, it could be just a spot, and that's why I object to it.
Okay. So, anybody want to amend it or leave it as it is right now with the proposed thing?
The proposed thing is not going to fly. So,
Well,
So let me,
we can pass it as it is, like that with the whatever, without the sodded and seeded. We just can't go out and tell somebody to put grass in their lawn, because our ordinance doesn't say to. We can still tell them to cut the grass they got, because we got an 8-inch thing. We can still,
so what they could do is let it die.
correct,
And then it'll be just red clay, and
right.
Okay, they could.
they could.
I have a neighbor who killed all the grass and enclosed it with railroad ties, whatever, and has wood chips all over it. That's not a lawn, but it works. It looks nice.
I'm sure.
He can't grow grass,
Yeah.
but I think there's too many exceptions.
well, let me withdraw this one.
And he can
Just go
park his
with
car on
what's
it
here.
too, right? He can park his car on it too, with the wood chips.
No,
Not unless it's a designated parking area.
not wood chips. But I've seen that. I've seen front lawns that were almost all pine straw.
Well, we can vote for it or vote it down, either one. And we can, if we vote for it, we can still change it later if we feel like.
Well, can I not withdraw my amendment?
Technically, no, because it's already been second, but
Let's
we've
vote
done
it.
it
All right, it's
before and
already been
everybody's done it
seconded, so
before.
let's vote.
Let's
Vote it
vote
down.
it down and leave it as it is.
Let's vote on it.
Okay.
Give us something to do next year.
How about if we just maybe have a workshop and do it the right way and let everybody know what you're doing, so we don't have to debate this for an hour and a half of our meeting?
That's why we deferred it, Mr. Walker, after the second meeting in June, first meeting in June. May, excuse me.
Yeah. All right, so 11, 12, 10, grass height. All in favor of this amendment, do so with show of hands. And all opposed. All right,
Oh
so,
my God.
I like this one.
Okay.
all right, next is
Siding.
11, 12, 16. So is there a motion for that amendment? Do you want to?
I only included on this the word decay. because if you have peeling paint, you can't paint on decayed wood, and that wasn't in the original code. It just says it must properly be painted with no peeling paint. I changed it to or decay and must be properly painted with no peeling paint.
Okay, so.
So if somebody's got a house that the fascia board's decayed and rotting, it needs to be replaced and then painted. And that's even in this thing here from City of Columbia. Only they use that for everybody, not just rental houses.
So do we have a motion?
I make the motion that we go with this no decay or must be properly painted with no peeling paint.
All right, and I'll second it.
All right. So what it'll end up saying for the second sentence is external siding shall not be allowed to rot
Or decay.
and must be properly painted with no peeling paint. Okay. Any discussion?
I have none.
All in favor of changing that sentence to add decay, basically, do so a show of hands. And the next is 11, 12, 17, boats. So is there a motion for that one?
I make a motion.
And a second.
I'll second it.
All right. And so we're changing it from the second reading, basically from 3 days to 2 days, and from 36 hours to 24 hours. Is that roughly?
And adding motorhomes, because some people call them motorhomes, some people call them recreational vehicles.
Okay.
Department of Motor Vehicles calls it all same-o, but just to be sure.
And we're adding the exception of backyard.
Yeah.
Any discussion?
This is very different.
Well, the one that's
From
second reading is kind of the same. It just adds that exception for backyard, and then it changes 3 days to 24 days and 36 hours to 24 hours.
Well, my intention in this was not to penalize somebody who rents a house and has a boat. They got to go pay to have it stored somewhere.
Right.
If they've got a backyard, they can put it in the backyard.
Put it behind the house.
Sure.
Okay.
But the property owners can pull the boat in the front yard.
Sure.
Is that right?
A property owner?
Yeah, somebody that owns a house, not rental.
Well, we're doing rental houses right now.
So the property owners can have a boat in the front yard and an RV and everything.
No.
They can't?
No.
And any more discussion? All in favor of 11, 12, 17 with these amendments on the proposed thing, do so show of hands. All opposed? And 11, 12, 20. Is there a motion for that?
Everybody's reading.
Go ahead and read it first.
No more than one family, which is defined as an individual, or 2 or more persons related by blood or marriage living together, or a group of individuals of not more than 3 persons not related by blood or marriage but living together as a single housekeeping unit may live in a rental home zoned for single family residential. No more than 10 people may live in any residential rental dwelling. Exceptions may be granted by the town administrator, which goes back to
Yeah.
11.1.
And we need a motion and a second.
I so move.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to amend that. What I'd like to amend is where exceptions may be granted by town administrator. I think you just take that right out. We said we didn't want to give that to Bob.
But we have it up here.
Yeah, well, I think we left it up.
Did you leave it up there?
I think
Yeah.
we did.
And I asked Bob prior to, would he be willing to deal with that? And he said, I wear many hats.
All right. Then I rescind my amendment.
We don't want you to get bored, Bob.
So no amendment, okay. Any more discussion on 20 occupancy? Seeing none? All in favor? All in favor then, I'll speak up, I think it's in bed. 11, 12, 20 occupancy, do so. Next is 11, 12, 21. This has to do with utilities.
And this was put in place because of the sewer problems we've been having in the town of Irmo lately. And I just changed some of the wording of what was already in this one and changed it to any occupied residential rental dwelling must at all times have water, sewer, and electrical services connected to proper provider or shall be deemed unrentable. So the property owner has to know that everything is hooked up before they can rent it to somebody. Don't put somebody in the house and then they find out that the sewer is in arrears and they can't get sewer service. It shall be the responsibility of the property owner to ensure that each dwelling has sewer service, and the failure to do so will result in a fine not less than $1,087.50, along with the requirement to clean up all illicit discharges and hold harmless the town of Irmo in any health or pollution issues. Because we could be fined up to $2 million for illicit discharges into the water system.
Can I interject a little something? The fine that the town issues is $500.
Right.
Everything else is not a quote fine. So I would probably suggest, for compliance with the statutory limits of a municipal court, that your fine be no less than $500.
So the state
Yeah, the rest of it is.
The state does not put this $587.50 into this one either?
I'm sure the state wouldn't call what they collect a fine. I think they would call it some other thing, some administrative fee or something like that.
So we should change this to $500, the town's limit.
That,
I propose in the amendment that we put it at $500, period.
Good idea.
Is that seconded?
Second.
We need to vote on the 500, and then we'll go back to voting on the other thing. So all in favor of changing the $1,087.50 to $500, do so with show of hand. And the only thing I'm guessing and reading is the difference in the one that we did second reading on and the one that you have on the thing.
I took out
Unlivable. Is there a reason for that, or?
Well, if we're issuing a business license or a rental permit to rent a house, how do we determine if it's unlivable? But we can say it's unrentable if it doesn't have all the provided services it should have.
I know municipalities that would condemn a house that didn't have that.
Yep.
Does it matter? Does it make it more enforceable or less or whatever with the unlivable as opposed to just the unrentable, or both?
I don't think it's would affect it with it being unlivable. I mean, if you're deeming it unrentable, then you deemed it unrentable. I mean, I suppose the property owner could come back in and inhabit it, and then but he wouldn't be under this ordinance anyway. He would be a primary residence. So.
Okay. Any more discussion? All in favor then of 11-12-21 as amended with the 500 instead of the 1,087, do so a show of hands. All opposed? Oh, and let me just double check my records. Who seconded that? I did. Okay. Okay. The one other thing I think we need to add, there's a line, if I remember, yeah, on the one we did second reading on, that last line says change the numbering from 119 to 121 because the original thing only went through 19. And there was something in there about one whatever. So I think we just need to add that same sentence to the bottom of, well, it ought to be in there. Since it's on,
It is.
it's on second reading, so it would already be in there. Okay,
It's in
that's fine. Yeah. Okay.
So we done.
So now we just have to do third reading.
Yeah. So now we're back to 1804, third reading as amended with all this stuff. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to change 11-12 standards for residential rental units and change it to say residential and commercial rental units. That's a motion. Standards for both residential rental and commercial.
That's a whole different discussion.
Yeah,
rental.
yes, but anyway. So there's a motion on the table to amend 11-12 to say standards for residential rental and commercial units. Is there a second? No second? And the motion dies for lack of second.
I need to say one. We need to put that as a discussion item, sure enough.
We can second it and discuss it.
No, we're not, because we got to finish this whole agenda, but that's a whole different thing, and
No, it
it
isn't.
would be a good
No, it
idea.
isn't.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, this
No,
is
it
called a
isn't.
residential
Residential
rental.
and
but
commercial rental units.
it died, it didn't get a second, so we really, they can put it back on. Any more amendments? Any more discussion? All in favor then of 1804 as amended, do so a show of hands. All opposed? All right. Next item on the agenda is 1814. This is the operating capital budget, and it is in the amount of $6,065,294. Is there a motion for third and final reading?
So,
I so move.
Any discussion? And I'll recognize Councilman Walker, and then Councilman Waite.
We pretty much beat that horse up, and I believe we're gonna move some stuff around and bring this budget into balance, if you will, by allowing the purchase of these cars in this year's budget as opposed to putting it in next year's budget, which means that we won't have a deficit, or a very little deficit. I shouldn't say much of a deficit.
Yeah, I think we're down to 71,627 right now.
But because we bought the cars last year, okay.
Yeah, we took
See, I wasn't here.
155,000
Okay.
out and bought
All
them last week, or last meeting. Any more discussion?
Well, may I?
Yeah.
The cars we did approve, had a little conversation with the chief today out in the middle of the street while I was mowing my grass, that we have 3 new officers that will be coming on board soon, and possibly 2 more, because we are 7 short. And code enforcement, except for 1 man, has been pulling patrol duty. So the citizens have not been fully protected because we are missing 7 officers. But we've got them almost here now. So we're back to full strength just about.
Thank you.
Chief's
I
been
think
working
the
hard
chief
on that.
should be commended since
Yes.
he was on patrol.
vacation time
You did your duty, chief. That's next year, though. Okay, I understand.
Just get that 1 more guy, we'll have all 7.
And again, this budget is a 0 meals, so we've been able to do that for another year, and pretty much everything else is kind of staying the same. Other than the fact that all these other insurance and medical and retirement and all that stuff keeps going up about 15% a year. Is what's hurting us. All in favor then of third and final reading of the budget for this year in the amount of $6,065,294, do so show of hands. Next is 1818. This is the one we're changing that one little property in the middle of a, no, this is the,
Bluebird.
yeah, 1816. This is the jail thing over here. I got something out of order. Is there a motion for second reading?
I so move.
And a second?
A second.
I got something.
And for clarification, the planning commission said to do this. Okay, got it, okay.
Well, this is the one on the,
Bluebird.
yeah, Bluebird Trail, that little property that's right in the middle of, yeah, there it is, of everything else that's general commercial around it. For some reason or other, I'm missing that one, but anyway. Any discussion? All in favor then of second reading on that one to change it from general residential to general commercial, do so with show of hand. Who seconded that?
I did.
Okay. I didn't get that wrote down. Do so with show of hands. Next is 1817. This is the one where we're doing the mailbox numbering, and we decided to change can or must to may. Is there a motion for third reading?
So move.
Or second reading?
So move.
And a second.
I'll second that.
I will recognize Councilman Walker and then Councilman Wade.
Yep, self-explanatory.
Any more discussion?
Well, I have a problem with some of this. it's not enforceable as it's written now. Taking the word must out, replacing it with may or can, I can jump off a building. I must not, but I can. And you must have a driver's license, but you can drive without one. But if you do, that would be enforced and you'll get a ticket. I talked with the postmaster down on Assembly Street, and mailboxes that are now out in front of houses in the cities, they're on the house. But outside city limits and in subdivisions, as the city moved out, you have your mailbox out on a post out in front of your house. And initially, the mailbox had to have numbers on both sides because it depended on which way the postman ran his route. And as the post office has now gone to right-hand drive vehicles in most situations, then they go with the flow of the traffic, and it'll be on the side with the flow of the traffic. But the postal regulation still says both sides. But he said we don't give people grief if they have it on the side that the postman's going to see. I still say that we need it for emergency vehicles. If there's no number on the house, no number on the mailbox, no number on the street, how are they going to know which house the person's in distress? I had that happen in my neighborhood a couple of weeks ago. My next door neighbor's wife was trying to break up a fight between two Great Danes and got knocked flat on her back and broke 4 ribs. And the ambulance came to my house. And I said, no, the house next door has the 2 dogs that probably caused the broken ribs, because his number is not on his house or on the mailbox.
Can I ask a question? Doesn't the Postal Service require that you have the number on the mailbox?
That's what I just said. They do.
But they don't enforce it.
But they don't enforce it either.
Well, the FBI is not doing much else, so I don't see why we can't have them do that.
I do know when I was painting my house that I lived in the city, I took my mailbox down to paint the brick. Mm-hmm. And after the first coat dried, I went to put the second coat on, and the mailman walks by my house and waves at me and keeps on going. I said, what about my mail? He said, your box got to be hanging up.
Oh, well.
I said, wonderful. You walk through my yard, you don't come up the sidewalk like the regulation says, but you're not going to give me my mail because the mailbox is sitting on the porch. So, they pick and choose what they're going to do.
So can we make them enforce that?
Well, we can make the resident have the numbers on the house, and I think it's a safety issue myself.
I know it's federal, but they don't. They have grass over 8 inches too.
We can't make federal do anything.
We could ask.
State can't make the federal.
No, nobody can.
How about you go to your neighbor and give him a $3 set of numbers and put it on his mailbox for him?
That's great.
Wouldn't that be a neighborly thing to do?
Well, I did tell the ambulance to go to that house.
Somebody buy me some. You can buy me some. I'll put them on.
$3 set of numbers. The town of Irmo can afford that.
Mm-hmm.
You can add that in our budget.
Well, you
For the
don't.
one
Not in a
house-
budget now.
the one
My
house.
next door neighbor, you wouldn't understand.
For the one house in Irmo that doesn't have numbers on it.
No,
Well,
it's
it's a
not the
lot.
only one, but at that instant, there was one. Just like when the lady across the street had her house broken into or entered, the numbers were there. That was what saved her bacon. Because it
So
was.
you can charge somebody $1,000 because they don't have numbers on their house.
Mr. Walker, the $1,000 is $500 from the town of Irmo, and if the state of South Carolina throws in $587.50,
Right.
that's what makes it $1,087.50. And I
Right.
understand from both Judge Epting and Judge Adams that fee has never been levied on anybody in the town of Irmo.
But it could.
And a $25 too.
It could.
Anything could happen.
Yeah,
Right.
Minimum is
My
25.
point is this: why are we going to mess with people for something that costs $3? Put some numbers on the house. Give them a hand.
Well, I'm not. If
mean,
you don't want
come
numbers
on.
on your house, that's your personal business. But when an ambulance,
Exactly.
But if an
Exactly.
ambulance is coming to find your house, you might die because you didn't want numbers on your mailbox.
That's why we have May.
We have what?
That's why it says May. We don't want to get into that numbering let the people.
Well, why don't we change everything that we have on the books now to May, and everybody can just do their own thing.
No, I hope
That's
they
why
do
that's where chaos comes from.
Now, chaos comes from a lot of stuff that y'all are doing.
When they instituted, and maybe I'm the only one old enough to remember, when they instituted
Now, I'm older.
9/11 service, you had to have the number on your house. And that's not federal, that's state, county, whatever.
Bob, how many numbers do we have, don't have numbers in the house?
I have no way of knowing. I bet it's more than 50.
In the entire town that don't have numbers in the house?
Driving around, and the code enforcement sergeant's been driving around, we notice them, they're out there. Because we have a lot of streets and houses where they're not sequential. That's what makes it difficult.
So those houses that don't have numbers on it, is it possible that we could go and say, hey, what's your number? Can we give you some numbers to put on your house?
And while you're at it, paint my house too, because I need it painted, and I would like some new shutters.
I'm not talking about painting the house, I'm talking about putting numbers on the
Hey,
house.
we're gonna do it with one, let's do it for.
$3 set of numbers, come on.
I think that'd be a good thing for a council member to do.
Yeah, you can pay it forward.
Yeah.
We need an Eagle Scout to make a project of that.
You're right.
Um,
Right.
Instead of the town getting to
And the
$1,000
number's not there.
fines.
I think somebody's hiding something. I can't help it, I do, that's what I think.
This is crazy, let's vote on it, call for the question.
Well, everybody hadn't had opportunity to speak, and I hadn't either, so I want to, and I don't think Mark's had an opportunity. And before you can call the question, everybody has an opportunity actually to speak twice. But I will agree, the problem with must is the way it is right now. It's been on our books since, well, I can't scroll this thing. But I think it's been on our books since 1985 before, since we changed it. So, but we hadn't enforced it. So if we're going to leave it as must as it is, then I think we either are going to have to enforce it, which we haven't. It came to Bob's attention, I think, that it was on here, and that we haven't been enforcing it, and he wanted to know what to do. Do we enforce it, or do we take it off the books? What we did was left it on here, but took out the enforceability and changed it from must to may, which we just did on the other thing as well, and voted on that. So we did just vote to have something in here that's kind of unenforceable with the lawns. I think right now this is a safe medium. It's on here, we can't enforce it, but it lets people know they should have their house marked. And if the fire truck rides up and down the road, or the ambulance, and can't find them, hey. But I think too, from what somebody told me, the fire truck now uses GPS, so they can punch in that address and go right to it regardless. I don't know if that's 100% true or not.
Any fire people out there?
What somebody had said, that they use the GPS, so they don't really use the addresses as much. But I'm sure the police officers do, and code enforcement does. But to me, this is one of those things too that I would say vote to take the whole thing off the book, or leave it on there, but leave it lenient, unenforceable, as it is. Because I don't know if I would want to enforce it. I kind of agree. If somebody, for whatever reason, don't want to do it, it's their liability. So, any more discussion? All in favor then of, which one am I on? Second reading of 1817, as it is right now with the must to the may. Yeah. Do so a show of hands.
Was it unanimous?
Yep.
Yes, it was.
Oh, Lord, write that down.
We've had a couple things tonight unanimous. I
Last
think.
three.
Three, I think. Anyway, next is 1818. This is the one that has to do with the Irmo lock, selling the property to Irmo lock for $46,000. This is first reading. We deferred that at last meeting since you were not here. Is there a motion for first reading?
I so move.
And a second.
Second?
And I'll recognize Councilman Waits and then Councilwoman Condon.
Well, they've been there many, many years. They want to own the building. They've been paying rent to the town of Irmo, and I don't think the town needs to be in the rental business. And it's based on what I've talked with some realtors about, it's a fair price. It's been appraised by a certified state appraisal agency. If we want to get it appraised again, it will cost us about $2,600. But it'll cost the town, which means we're now getting $43,500. So I think we should sell it.
And Kathy?
I appreciate you all waiting till I could get here. I do know that appraisal agency, I've heard nothing bad about them, which is always good. I think that's a reasonable price, unless we were going to save it for some use with the town. I can't think of why we wouldn't sell it, but it's so small. Have y'all been in there?
Oh, yeah.
I am, me too. I've been in there because he does all the real estate keys and everything. It's too small for anything, anything historical anyway, and the bars are gone. I think we ought to do it, unless y'all just want to keep renting it to the guy. But I think it's a good price, fair market.
Any more discussion?
You've rented it for what, 10 years, you said?
Oh, he's been renting it forever.
Well, I mean, 10 years, 20 years?
Probably over 25.
Yeah.
Daddy rented it.
Before him.
Your daddy rented for 25 years?
I'm going to guess at least that long.
He's been a good tenant too.
At $600 a month?
No, it started off about 300. When I came here 20 years ago, it was 350 a month. Then it got raised to 500 a month, probably 10 years ago.
Has the town had to put any money into that building? For
We put a heater or something,
New
or air
heating
conditioning
system.
a couple of years ago.
air conditioning,
Back.
paint?
Well, Ski had put, they had to replace the air conditioning one time, and he did it himself.
Okay.
Is the,
We were the landlord, he could have forced us to do it, but he didn't.
is the lease, is it a lease or rental?
I think it's month to month, isn't it? I think it is.
Month to month, and it's not a triple net.
No, we have no contract in place that I'm aware of still.
Okay, so,
Kind of been in place, just
A gentleman's agreement.
correct.
okay, so you're saying
And
we,
he is a
you rented for $350 a month for 12 months, for 25 years.
Yes, sir.
That's $105,000 we made off of that property. $105,000 over the last 25 years, and you want to sell it for 46 because he wants to buy it. And I understand that because this guy's been paying rent so long, and he's paying more now than he was in the past. But again, this is historical property. It has no real meaning, no value to anybody but this locksmith. But it was the original jail of the town of Irmo. I mean, that historical fact still remains. You know, they say they don't have the bars anymore, but the bars on the back part are still there. But that location was the original jail of the town of Irmo. So why do we keep renting it for another 25 years and make another $105,000 as opposed to taking a $45,000 pop right now? I mean, I don't see what the urgency is to do it.
I can't answer all of that, but I will comment on some because the reason we're deciding or voting on selling it is because he wants to buy it. He's made an offer, and it's up to us to either say yay or nay. It is a significant or sentimental value building to the town as far as being the original jail. Of course, it really probably has no originality inside of it left. But at the same time, he could decide to move out tomorrow, and we're stuck with a building with no money coming in on it, and nobody else would want. and eventually we'd be putting money into it to do something to it or maintain it to keep it from falling apart.
Or rent it to somebody else for $350 a month.
Yeah, or rent it to somebody for $500 or $600, whatever they're getting now. But trying to rent a 542 square foot building with basically no parking, and as soon as somebody comes over here and says they want to rent that building and they want a business license, we're going to check their parking, and they probably ain't got adequate parking, and we're going to tell them no.
So wait a minute, you tell me he's parking trucks on there illegally right now?
He's probably grandfathered in from years ago.
Oh, yeah.
But our ordinance now is different than it was years ago. Kind of like the same thing with Dula property. They had parking there over there for many years, but then when the state took the land and the building went vacant, if somebody comes in there now, they basically got to have adequate parking. So whoever could be stuck with not. But at the same time, you know, they've had it appraised. Actually, they had it, the First Community Bank had it appraised because I guess they're either borrowing some money or something. So they had it appraised to make sure it's worth whatever they're going to borrow on it or whatever. And again, I don't know that we could rent it to anybody at 546 square foot.
I don't either.
And I don't know that, you know, we're in the real estate business. If somebody else can buy it and make money and rent it, I think we ought to sell it to a real estate company and let them do that. But that's, you know.
And this is different from the building behind us that used to be the police station, the council chambers, the everything, the Youngner building. That's part of the complex, and it's rented now. And because it's so close, it's right out our back door, I would hate to sell it because it's part of this area. The jail's down the street.
Yeah, and this guy's, I mean, I can't speak on behalf of him either, but if he's retiring and wants his son to take over the business and wants to have him a permanent spot, their best bet is to try to buy it.
But they're not compliant with their parking right now. So when they buy it, that means they're not grandfathered in anymore. Their owner.
He's still the
has to be
occupant of it.
compliant.
I'm sure he still would be.
Huh?
He's still the occupant of it.
Yeah, but he's not grandfathered in anymore if he owns the property now.
I think he would be. He's still the occupant.
He has to comply to the current zoning ordinances, right?
Not unless he remodels.
We might need a legal opinion on that.
Yeah, if he
I'm just asking the question. If he buys the property, he has to comply to the current zoning ordinance. And you just said that he doesn't have adequate parking, so.
No, what I said, actually what I said was.
What did you say?
That property, if somebody else bought it and tried to move into it.
Right.
He's not buying it and moving into it. He's already in it.
So he's going to buy it, but he's going to own it now. So he's a new owner.
He's the occupant.
So am I wrong to think that, Mr. Lawyer?
I think you are, but
well, let me ask the lawyer. Yeah, am I wrong to think that, Mr. Lawyer, that if he buys his property, he has to comply to the current zoning requirements?
He's researching.
Oh, you're looking it up? Okay.
This man only needs 2 parking spaces.
Yeah, but he's got about 4 or 5 trucks that are on it right now.
Well, they're parked behind the building.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He made a point that it's not in compliance zoning parking-wise, and I'm saying, well,
if somebody else moves into it, it may not be. Right.
But if he buys the property, he now has to comply to the current zoning requirements.
I would think.
It has to do with uses. It has
right.
to do with how you're using the property, and if you change the use of the property, it would no longer be a non-conforming use that has been there for a while. So if somebody came in and put a shoe shine shop in there, and had customers coming in from the street, and you could put 10 people in there, then they'd have to comply with the parking ordinance.
Okay.
If you kept it the same business, doing the same exact thing, didn't change it, didn't increase it, didn't do anything to it, then it would continue to be a pre-existing non-conforming use. But if they change it in any way,
they
it
remodel.
would not be pre-existing non-conforming use, and then they would have to comply.
So he can't call it Irmo Lock and Key Company?
Not the way it's being used.
Okay. So you can't change the name or anything. That means changing the use.
The name doesn't change the way a thing is used. I can call this thing a megaphone, and it's not a megaphone. I can call it a speaker. I can call it whatever, but
stop.
It still does the same thing.
Stop. I got enough. Let's vote on it.
Any more discussion? Everybody spoke? All in favor then of first reading of 1818? Do so with show of hands. All opposed? Next is 1819. This is new business. This is the one that has to do with increasing the franchise fee from 3 to 4%. Is there a motion for first reading?
Oh, so moved.
And a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah. Should we go? Okay. I don't like taxes. I don't like fees. I don't like any of these things. But we're at a crossroads in the town where we've got to do something to increase the revenue. Even, I think everybody remembers in the budget hearings when the chief asked us for a lieutenant and we couldn't fund it. And that is not only embarrassing, it's a damn shame. Of all the ways we have to get revenue, I think this is the least offensive. And it would raise enough money that we would have some leeway. Isn't it $195,000, Bob? Right? I think. Okay. We need some leeway because if insurance premiums keep going up, if our liability insurance keeps going up, and the retirement, it's a matter of, it's not if, it's when. It's going up because that system has to be fixed, and it's a state retirement. We're going to have to contribute more, and the individuals will too. Then we're paying for lawyers, present company excluded. We're paying for something we never thought we'd have to do, but we've got to do it now. And that's expensive. And then jail fees, which used to be next to nothing. Well, they're not next to nothing anymore. I don't think we're wasting money. I don't think we're spending it badly. I know the staff, I'm there 2 or 3 times a week. They try their best to save money. And I think they do a good job of it. But we've got to have another revenue stream, even if it's $195,000. We need a little more money because of costs that we can't control. And I'd be interested to know what everybody else thinks.
And who seconded that, Julius?
Well, I agree that we need to get some revenue from something, and this is just increasing the franchise fee from Time Warner, Uverse, whoever else does business in the town. They pay a franchise fee, and of course they pass it on to the customer. However, I will pay 1% franchise fee all day long and not pay property tax on my house and my cars. If you have motorcycles, if you have boats, they're exempt from property tax in the town of Irmo. You pay Richland County or you pay Lexington County taxes on your home and your vehicles, but you don't pay the town of Irmo. We had one at one time. It's been gone for, 12 years now?
Yeah.
That's the only other source of revenue that the town could instantly recover from is to attach a millage to the taxes on your properties. And if there's a way to avoid that, I think we ought to do anything we can to avoid that. And health costs are going up, so our insurance costs are going to go up. Of course, I always used to tell my students, if you think the cost of living is high, check the cost of leaving here. It's not cheap to die.
That's true.
It's just a never-ending spiral. But I think this is one way. So I agree.
Anyone else?
You said that's the only other way we can raise revenue in the town of Irmo?
I didn't say that's the only way, Mr. Walker. I said the only other way to raise a lot of revenue to cover unexpected things and the increases that are coming right, left, is to reinstitute property taxes. And I said that's a last resort, in my opinion.
But you can also raise the business license fees for everybody that has a business in town. And that would raise, what, $500,000 quickly, as opposed to 125,000, 150,000?
Propose it. This
I'm
is-
just saying, it's not the only way.
No, it's not the only way,
Okay.
but this is a way that is not going to hurt anybody, 1%.
We actually got 3 ways on here tonight.
Yep.
Some of them real little, but. Any more discussion?
Is it necessary? You said it's necessary, Ms. Condon?
Yeah, yes, that's,
Why is it necessary? Our budget is balanced,
This year.
for the most part.
then it will be needed next year. I can assure you, the health care cost, the insurance fees, the liability cost, 'cause that jumped up this year too for some reasons.
And I agree those things go up, but I mean, we just found a way to get our budget in balance by
If there was.
shell game
we
and
know
moving stuff this
there'll be
year and
a
next year.
surplus, then there's no way to know that.
But I'm saying, we just figured out a way to do it for our balanced budget for next year, right?
We happen to have a
It's
surplus.
actually not balanced. It's still 71,000 short.
But we said it was 300,000 or 211,000 out of
did
balance.
that.
Okay, so we figured out how to do it. We can figure out ways to do it in the future, right?
I think we.
That means we don't buy a police
No,
car
I
if we
think
can't
need
afford
a-
it.
I think we need a reserve. And
Well, I
we-
agree. We have a reserve. We got a surplus every
It's not
year
enough.
for the last 20 years that I've been on this council, or 15 years I've been on this council. We had a surplus.
And we started out at the beginning of the year with a balanced budget,
And
not a
five of-
deficit.
5 of those
And we have a
years
balanced
had
budget
property.
pretty much this year too.
Mm-hmm.
All we gotta do is shift around some more stuff, buy it out of this year's budget as opposed to next
Yeah.
one.
Well,
I mean,
that's
we don't-
really
We could
not the
not
right
pay
way
some
to do it.
people or cut some expenses and all that good stuff too. We could balance it, but that ain't what we voted to do.
I don't think it's necessary, but I mean, you look, if we're gonna do it across the board for everybody. Raise the business license,
That-
generate some real revenue.
Business license? I have utilities.
We have businesses that have business license.
I know, but across the board would be this.
Well, yeah, anybody who, yeah, okay,
Um,
a little bit.
One thing I want to say is the state has set certain revenue things that the municipalities can do. They're very limited. We can do property tax, we can do business license, we can do what they call uniform service fees. If we had sewer, water, and stuff like that, you can charge a service fee on top of the garbage bill, which is something we have on the books. And we also can charge the stormwater thing, which is a uniform service fee according to them, to offset the cost that they mandate us to do all this stuff. In the past, we've been paying for that out of general fund. We're short basically on paper, and that's what we got to work with every year when we start out is a budget on paper. In the past, we've always started out with a budget that was even, and we ended up in the end of the year with a surplus, mainly because staff has always spent less than it was budgeted, and we've always had openings that have gone unfilled. So when you have 2 or 3 police officers' positions that are not filled, it's easy to end up with 100,000 surplus when you don't buy all the stuff that you have in your budget that year. We also used to put 15,000 in, or 20, I think, or something, for beautification that we hadn't done in years. So
That's true.
there's always that money in the budget that we don't necessarily end up spending. But this year we started out with a $71,000 deficit, started out with a 300, and we moved some stuff and bought some stuff now out of our anticipated surplus because based on the stuff coming from the Municipal Association for insurance, we were going to be getting some checks, and we were probably going to end up with a $300,000 or $200,000 surplus. So it allowed us to take that money and buy the cars now and get them out of this budget. If we do the 1% increase, that's about $200,000 roughly. We have a $71,000 deficit right now. We will probably have some increases next budget as far as insurance and all that stuff going up. We also have these other 2 things on here that will not really bring in revenue, but they will offset our expenses. So we'll take One of them might bring in 17,000, so that'll take 17,000 out of the general fund and reimburse us for that cost that the state says we got to do. The stormwater thing, I think, was about 30,000, Bob said. But all those things that we can charge helps us reimburse the town out of some of this stuff that we're mandated to do by others. We're going to get hit with our jail fee right now. If you send somebody to jail, is $41.
40.
45 now until 1 July, and it's 71.
And then it's going up to 71. That's not a 100% increase, but that's about an 80% increase. We probably have 6,000 or 10,000 in our budget right now for jail. Six.
I think it's just under 7,000 what we spent because we're putting more.
That could go to 20 or 30. So we're going to be short again on that. And there's no way to pay these things when you don't have money. And the only way for us to basically raise money is to raise the business license, like Councilman Walker has said, which I would vote against. We're already charging them a fair and an affordable rate. I don't think we even need to charge them anymore. We don't charge a property tax, and we really don't charge anything for the garbage other than what it costs. That's why we're adding that other little fee to help reimburse the town for what we have to do to manage that money and manage that account and take trash cans out and all that good stuff. My suggestion, and it's just...
Well, we charge more than what it costs.
my suggestion would be to do the 3% to 3.5%. And then if we have to change it next year from 3.5 to 4.
I like 4.
I know, but it worries me if we get too much money, then somebody wants to spend it on stuff that we don't need to spend it on.
Well,
I'd much rather have a tighter budget than I would a surplus. If I was in my business, yeah, I want a surplus, but I don't think the government needs to be overcharging in order to make some. But, that's that. I still think the 3.5 would be safer, especially along with these other two items. But
if they pass.
if they pass. But I think, again, if we want to reimburse the town for our expenses, some of that stuff, we're being forced. And the state has already kind of said, if we wanted to bring back property tax, we may or may not be able to do that. The law says you can only go up X amount a year, and if you have zero, then technically, but we wouldn't be going up. We would be implementing, not increasing.
But that would have to be an emergency.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, even if we wanted to, I don't know that we could. These are some of the only things that we're stuck right now with doing. Even that uniform service fee is real hard based on the state interpretation and stuff to interpret that means anything that we can use to our benefit. I don't think it does. So we can either go up on these other things and start reimbursing the town with these other fees, and that's that, until we get to a point where we'd either have to go up on business license or go up on property tax and see how it holds in court, because it'd probably have to go to court. But
We can go ahead. But one other side note, because the councilman has the number out here. We ought to have that much in reserve.
I totally agree.
We ought to have 1 year's budget in reserve, and we don't.
no,
Why not?
I don't think any town does.
Why not?
We used to.
We used to. What happened to it?
Well, we spend it on a police department, a town park, and a community park. So, we got something for our money, but you can either borrow or you can pay cash. And the only reason we had that cash, too, is because we didn't get rid of the property tax, I'm going to say, soon enough. We decreased it every year for a lot of years, but it was still $200,000 or $300,000 was coming in every year more than we needed, and we were saving it. But we did pay cash for our police department, which is good.
Building.
And we paid cash for this town park, which is good. We didn't have to go somewhere and borrow. And we paid cash for the community park over there, so we didn't have to borrow. We could have waited and got $500,000 grant from the state, but that's a different story and a whole different time and everything else, but we didn't.
It was money well spent, don't you?
Yeah, I think a lot of people use it and it's good. If anybody wants to make a amendment to 3.5, I will second and vote for it, but if nobody wants to, I won't waste my time making a motion.
Okay, good.
But I'll look at you and see if
Like
you're going to.
before,
I'll
I
give you
like-
the evil eye and stare at you.
4's good.
Yeah, but
Nice round number.
It is about,
what about 3.75?
I was born on the 4th of July. See that? So we got.
Oh, Lord.
You and George M. Cohan.
I was born in April,
We
but
rambled for 20 minutes.
I still
about
like
nothing.
3.5.
Speak, Councilman.
All right, any more discussion?
Yes, we have not let him speak.
Oh, okay.
Look, I think to be fiscally responsible, we need to cover some of the expenses that are going to continue to increase. My health insurance at work, the company's paying less, I'm paying more. All of our insurances, our car insurances, our house insurances, they're all going up. It's inevitable. And by the way, in a good economy, things go up. They do. So
That's true.
I think we need to do something. I don't know what the right percentage is, but we need to do something.
Anyone else? You want to speak? Either speak or forever hold your peace. I'm moving on. Any more discussion? All in favor then of the increase from 3% to 4% on the franchise fee, do so with a show of hands. All opposed? Uh-oh, me and Barry's together.
Oh, Lord.
I would have gone for 3.5, but,
No,
and it may be right, I don't know. Who
this
knows?
is painful enough.
It
And
is.
Get it over with and save some.
That's probably right. Next is the 1820, the stormwater management utility fee of $8 annually per home. Is there a motion for approval?
Well, we're required. I so move.
And a second. I will second that. I put it on there, so I'll second it. Oh, you can go ahead.
Well, it's a mandated thing we have to do, so South Carolina says do it, we're doing it.
Yeah, this is something that it's getting tougher and tougher and tougher. Years ago, there was, I don't want to say 5 things you had to do, and now there's 20 things you have to do, and next thing you know, it's 50 things you got to do, and it's getting more and more and more, all for probably good reason, but it's also spending a lot of time for our staff in our town. And I think Bob figured up the other day, it takes us about $30,000 worth of time to manage all this stuff. And I think it's time, with our short budget, is to any of this stuff that we can offset. And he figured up the most minimum fee that could be done to cover the $30,000 per home, so to speak. And that's where you got that figure from. So, any more discussion? All in favor then of the first reading of 1820 with the $8 fee per home, do so with a show of hands. All opposed?
You didn't vote for mine, I'm not voting for yours.
Oh, God.
All righty. Let's see. 1821, this is the one that has to do with the administrative fee being added to the garbage collection fee. This one is in the amount of $3.50. Is there a motion for first reading? And I'll put that on. I'll make a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I made the motion, so I'll go ahead and mark. This is something that, again, trying to offset some of the time that we have to do. One of the few places that we are allowed by state law to charge is for what they call a uniform service fee, which would be an administrative cost that's on the garbage fee. And again, Bob's collected that little thing, I don't know if y'all got that, that shows the breakdown, and it equated out to, for 5,000 residents, and I think that may, is that how many we got now? Is that how many when the other neighborhood is? Oh, okay. And it turned out to be $3.54 per home. Not a lot of money as far as per home, and it's not a lot to the town. It was $17,690, almost $18,000. But at the same time, it helps offset some of that general fund expenses that we're incurring because of, and without bringing back property tax or going up on business license, this is one of the ways we can kind of offset a little bit here and a little bit there of some of that revenue to kind of increase a little bit. This was 17, I think that other one was 30, and the business or the franchise was, say, 2. So we're looking at maybe $250,000 with all 3 of these, which should be enough to offset, to help cover any stuff that comes in when we sit down to do the budget next year. And actually, this one doesn't come in until January of 19. So they'll add it to the tax people, and it comes in next year.
So are these added to like the garbage fee on your?
Well, this one is added to the garbage, and the other one, they'll just add that. I don't know that when you get your tax thing, they'll say. They're going to put it all together. All together. So you'll have town of Irmo, and it'll be your garbage, this fee, and that other fee all in one lump sum, instead of breaking it down. And they charge us also for that. The money that they collect over there on behalf of the town, I don't know if it's 3% or something, but they charge us something. So we don't really get.
Yeah, we won't get it all.
Yeah, we don't get it all. We
charge
get
an administrative fee. We need to offset an administrative fee.
So, any more discussion?
How much is our garbage fee now?
Sir?
How much is the garbage fee per house now?
It is $18.95 is what we're charged
Per house?
per house.
Per month?
Per month, yes.
What does it cost us?
About,
$18.95 is what it's costing us. Right now, we're collecting $15 per house per month.
I thought it was the other way around. We were charging more. We had a cushion built in.
That's what we used to do.
Right.
We brought in the new garbage service, and we wanted better quality service, so the fee went up.
Okay, so we're charging less than what we're actually we're charging less than what we're actually costing us?
yeah.
Correct.
All right, but how are we paying for that? We got a surplus from before?
We do.
How much is the surplus from before?
I don't know off the top of my head, but we figured out we had enough in there for the next 3 to 4 years if we were going to help offset if we gradually increase the cost.
All right, so if we gradually increase the cost, so it's, again, we're charging a little more than we're charging, what it's costing us, like we were?
To that point, what council agreed to was $30 increase for next year, and
Right.
$30 increase the year after. That would still put us a little bit under. But again, we've got the money in the garbage account to cover this.
Right,
And when we get to that point, 2 years from now, we'll be getting just what we're paying, unless the fee goes up.
right,
And we'll have to do another calculation.
okay.
Yeah, we voted a while back, it was $180 a year, and we went up January of 2019 to $210 a year, and then we'll go up in January of 20 to $240 a year, and looks like it stays that the rest of the time.
Okay,
So it went from 180 to 210, then it'll go to 240, and it'll stay that for a while. And after 5 years, we'll probably be even Steven,
Correct.
something.
Because the $18.95, which is almost $19 a month, it comes to, I think, $239 or $238 and some change.
so basically, we're gonna raise the fee by $3.50, which will bring us 50 cents over what we actually are being charged.
Help, that's correct, because this is all for administrative costs, which is the $350.
Right.
Its time and the staff time.
So why don't we, okay, so why don't we just call it what it is, say we wanna charge more than what we're actually costing us? Why are we putting it in as a form of a
Because it's the way the
user
state
fee?
requires us to do it if we're gonna charge it.
No, we can just do it the right way and say, hey, our garbage fee is gonna be $18 a month, and we need to charge $18.50 a month. I mean, we're doing it, that's what we're gonna end up doing, but
And I think
We're
too,
doing
if
it
we do
through a
that way,
tax.
that money will go into the account, and it's in there. The way we're doing it now, we can pull this money out and put it in general fund.
That's correct.
Right. So that's kind of why we're doing it. So we can track that money and pull it out separately.
So we're actually adding a tax. Then we could have made that $20 if we wanted to, per household,
No.
if we wanted to.
No, we can't charge more than what we project our cost to be
Right.
for the service fee. We can't just throw a number out there. We have to be able to justify it, and that's what we've done with the man hours.
But we can, come January of next year, when they send us the money, we can figure up $350 per home times 5, whatever we got in there at the time, and pull that money out, put it in our general fund to offset our staff costs. The rest of it stays in the fund account for the garbage, and you kind of keep them separate. Any more discussion? All in favor then of first reading of 1821 to add the $350 per home, do so a show of hands. Opposed? Next is presentation by citizens. This is where anyone who wants to address council on anything, regardless if it's on the agenda or not, may do so at this time. All we ask is you give us your name and address for the record.
Hello. Jada Powell, 212 Bolter's Lock. I figured since Mr. Glassmeyer wasn't here, I would do all the yelling tonight. So I just have a couple things. As far as the Irmo lock, if they are grandfathered in, then wouldn't the residents be grandfathered in from the parking ordinance?
He is.
Excuse me?
So,
What did you? She just asked you a question. Why are we responding to her?
I'm just saying yes to Mr.
oh, that was another question.
Oh,
Can
okay.
you respond to me?
Okay.
Because I wanted to ask how many rentals Irmo owns also.
You might be able to ask Bob.
Do you have a business license? Do you pay $50 per dwelling to the general fund?
That's correct.
You do?
That's where it goes.
Okay, just checking. Just checking.
But do they all pay?
Probably not.
When
But
we find them, they do.
Okay, yeah, because we were having a problem with that.
No. How many does the town rent out? Irmo Lock and Key is a rental with y'all. That's what I'm getting at.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So, and my last thing is, we all know the media's here for all the controversy. I am standing here right now saying I'm embarrassed that the council acted the way it did tonight with all these people watching. Thanks.
thank you. Okay.
Linda Jackson, 267 Garden Brook. With regard to your rental and 10 people in a house, you indicated you looked up some law regarding 10 people.
And then I called, because when you look up, you get different, I'm sorry, but you get different numbers according to which federal law. So I called HUD after I read fair housing and all that, and HUD gave me the figure. Then the South Carolina Supreme Court gave us that figure.
Okay, but federal law says
That's HUD.
it's by square footage depending on the size of the house.
That's true.
So you can have a very small house with small bedrooms, all right? And it's per person, square footage. That's how you calculate safety on a fire level. So if
To
you
make
have
it
a trailer with 10 people in it and the rooms are real small, that's a fire hazard. So how can you pass
They
an
gave me
ordinance
the
and
figure
say
10.
10 per house when it should be based on square footage? You would have a fire hazard under fire law. So I think you need to rethink that, reconsider it, because if you violate a fire law with insurance policies, the town of Irmo will be liable. So will you reconsider that, even though you passed it
I-
and address it, and I'll find you the law that says that?
No, ma'am, because I found all the laws. I'll call the fire department, and I'll call HUD again.
Well, my niece
Well,
is a lawyer, and she's gonna.
Let me
figure it
just
out.
kind
I'm
of,
just letting you know
yeah,
that
but we shouldn't
you
be
said 10 based
debating,
on
so yeah,
square
go ahead.
footage. Now, regarding that new ordinance for the one you just passed, you're charging $8, and I have no objection for the storm water, but I need an explanation as to what it's for. And I don't mind paying the $3.50 for the garbage, because I remember when you ended up changing, you used your surplus for the difference in the price instead of immediately charging all of us the full price. So I think you kind of gypped yourself a little bit when you did that. So that's fair, but what is the storm water for?
And after the meeting, you can probably ask Bob there, and he can explain probably that better than any of us.
What's the storm water for?
Well, not here, but after the meeting.
You'll give me the answer after the meeting on the storm water.
He will.
Okay. No, because we just got an increase from Utility Inc. in our community for
Sure.
water. So I wanted to know what the storm water was for.
Bob
All right,
knows.
so I'll accept his answer after the meeting. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none. Next item is the discussion. I think Councilman Walker had on here. We'll let him start.
Yeah, this is about council members' uses of Facebook. Council, we are in an age where social media basically has transformed our communication effort from singularly putting an ad in the paper or sending a letter out to somebody or communicating through smoke signals. We are actually in an age where we can actually get our letter or get our message out a lot faster through social media, through the electronic media of Facebook. And when we do those kind of posts and those things, you know, it's a reflection of not only us as a council, but us as the town of Irmo, since we are elected officials from the town of Irmo. So I just wanted us to make sure that we understand that what we post, what we like, what we share on Facebook is something is viewed by John Q. Public and by everybody as the way the town of Irmo's council feels, the way the town of Irmo council thinks, where they operate. And unfortunately, we can get national exposure, good or bad, from those posts. So I urge you to basically, council, is to be mindful that what we post on council, on Facebook, what we post on social media, what we share, can impact us negatively and impact us positively. But I also would urge you to understand that I will defend your rights at all times to post whatever you want to post. But understand that you have to pay the consequences of what you post and deal with the wrath of that. So that's my discussion, that's my 2 cents, and I hope that our council will understand basically what I'm saying and what I'm getting at.
Anyone else? That it? Next item is a discussion on the water meters. We had been notified that the Arbor Day wanted to do a planning over here, a small one, I think from what Whit said. Bob had sent something out the other day about whether we need to put in a water meter. And we don't really have a policy on that. We've done it sometimes, we haven't done it other times. I know we discussed doing some stuff on Woodrow Street along the railroad track maybe 2 years ago, but we did not do it because we didn't want to put a water meter in there. I just want y'all to think about that and come up with some guidelines, because I've asked Bob to kind of come up with some policy, something that says if it's over X amount of dollars of plants, we do it. If it's some other criteria, if it's over X amount of dollars of planting and then we add it into the cost of the plants. Let's just say the plants are $5,000 and the water meter's $2,500. Because what's happened, we've got a lot of water meters around town. I used to have a list of them. Bob might need to give us a new list. And we might need that for 3 years, and then we don't really need it. If we're using it, we pay a water bill. If we're not using it, we pay a water bill. Still $30 a month. We may even need to look at that and say, hey, let's cut these off. But I think it's something we need to get our head around so we can start, because I've asked Bob to come up with something, and it may be that if we have a water truck, if Whit has to take that water truck out, or his guys do, and for 3 years they've got to spend, let's just say $100, and then let's just say the average cost of a public works is $30 an hour, that's X amount of dollars. And if the stuff costs X amount of dollars, then we need to whatever. If the stuff is $2,000 and it's going to take us $4,000 to water it, and the water meter's $2,400, you know, but some kind of equation so we can put that on the agenda at a later date and come up. And that way it's no more discussion about it. Bob knows if it's over this, we do it. If it's under that, we don't. Unless we want to put an exception in there for town administrator.
Okay.
Go ahead, that's all.
At the railroad crossings, at the, what do you call it, you know, right, okay, those, there's no water meter there. And I feel so sorry for your guys, because they have to stand there and water those things. Now, is it worth it? Yes. It made a drastic difference in the railroad, I think. And I hate that they have to water it, but it's not big enough for a water meter, but.
And sometimes you can't get a water meter there because
No,
it's on
no.
a water line, or it's on the other side of the track, and you got to go under and track and all that junk.
It really does. I don't know how you got plants to grow in rock, but it really it made a drastic difference.
Whit's a wizard.
Yeah, he did.
But anyway, that was that. I just felt
Okay,
like we
we'll
need to
do
hurry
water
up and probably in June or July. Well, this is June, so maybe in July, or maybe August. We got one meeting canceled in July. And think about, too, Chief said, August 2nd? 7th. We need to make sure we don't put a whole lot of stuff on the agenda as much as possible. Do it in July the 19th, or do it in the other meeting. If somebody wants to make a motion at a different time on the next agenda to cancel that meeting, we can do that, too. We only have to have one per month by law, so we can do that as well. Any more discussion? No executive session. Next thing is adjournment. Is there a motion?
So move.
And a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye, Bob.
Aye.
Aye, Bob. Aye, Bob.
Mr. Mayor.
Oh,